I'm Ariel Azor, host of Right This Way, and this week I have a special guest with me. This is my friend Collin. He is coming to do this episode with me today. We're going to try something a little different, and we're going to look at some pictures that haven't really been shown a lot on most media networks, most sites, even social media and things like that. These are things you're not really going to see on the mainstream media, but these are some images that we found and we felt like most people probably needed to see these. And so we're going to just talk about what's going on in these today. So our first picture we have today is Tom Wolfe. We're both from Pennsylvania. I went to high school with Collin. And so we've been following a lot about what Tom Wolfe has been doing with coronavirus and all of that going on. And I think most Pennsylvanians are pretty annoyed with what's happening here. So it was a shock to see very, very strict rule follower Tom Wolfe going out and protesting, breaking his own rules that he set for coronavirus restrictions and things like that. So he's elbow bumping this guy. I mean, at least he's not shaking hands with him, but I think he's breaking like 6 different rules here that he actually set for the people. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. You know, Tom Wolfe, obviously you mentioned he's giving an elbow bump, but he's not 6 feet away from people. He's kind of gathered with the masses and the crowds. And one of the most interesting things that I think about this photograph is that Tom Wolfe actually said at a press briefing when called out by a reporter, "Why are you going out with these masses? That's a risk of getting the coronavirus." And he said that it was a big gamble, but he thought that the cause was worth the gamble. Well, in my opinion, the government was shutting down all these businesses and people couldn't work. I think being able to work and support your family, that's worth the risk of the coronavirus in itself, more so than a protest, in my opinion, regardless of what the cause may be.
Right. Well, and it's kind of frustrating because we went from one week ago before the protest, or I guess 2 weeks ago before the protest started, if you go outside, if you see your friends, if you do anything that we've told you can't do if you don't wear a mask, you're killing your own grandma. And, like we went from that to if you're not out on the streets protesting this, you don't care about black people. Or you're a racist, just in general. So I think it's kind of silly because what's going to happen here is one of 2 things. Either we're going to have a huge, huge outbreak of coronavirus after all these people are out together breaking the rules they set that were very necessary, what they told us, the reason we cannot go to church, the reason we cannot have grad parties, graduations, things that are big life experiences even, not just church. That's the one that really bothers me. But all of these things that they told us, you absolutely cannot do this because coronavirus is such a risk. So we're going to see that happening, or we're going to see what I think is much more likely. The government lied, and that coronavirus is not what they told us it was, and we didn't need to do this months of quarantine that we just came out of. We didn't all need to wear these face masks, because that's the one thing that gets me too. They told us face masks don't do anything. The actual doctor said that. So what's the point of wearing them on? Like, I kind of wonder that. Is it just to see how far we can, as the government, push people to do what we say and things like that?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Back to what you were saying earlier with graduation and stuff getting canceled, I feel very fortunate that the both of us graduated in 2019 and that we did not have to deal with all this crap. So I feel very fortunate about that. And as far as you were talking about a doctor, I believe you're talking about Dr. Fauci. Yeah. That guy has flip-flopped on so many things. So I guess he's never wrong about anything.
Right.
I guess, I don't know, it's kind of crazy because originally he said you don't need to wear a mask unless you have the virus or you think you may have the virus and it's preventing from spreading to other people. Then he later on said that you need to be wearing a face mask all the time. And then he said that you need to have only a certain type of face mask, otherwise it's useless, or you need to keep interchangeably changing face masks, which most people probably don't have a bunch of face masks that they throw away each time. So it's not really doing that much to help stop the spread, in my opinion.
Right. That's kind of how I feel. So we've got another picture. this is just another picture I wanted to show. It's the same thing. So we've got Tom Wolf again. This is him actually marching in the protest. And again, he's not 6 feet apart. You know, he's not wearing gloves. He's not wearing any of the kind of protective stuff, minus a mask that he told us we need to wear. He is with a group of more than 20 people, I think. I mean, it's definitely hard to tell, but like I can't see how many people are behind him. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I can see at least 16 people in there right now. So we're probably over 20. And he's very close to these people. He's not 6 feet apart. I mean, it's what you said. He's just breaking his own rules. And I think the thing to take from this is kind of everybody's that's supporting all of these restrictions they put on us and saying it's just the government doing what's best for us. I think this is just proof right here that that's not really the case. Because if you're Governor Tom Wolf, you're willing to put whatever restrictions you want to put on people if you know for a fact you don't have to follow them. It doesn't affect me, so let me restrict them however I want. You know, I'll do this. I'll ruin their senior year. I'll ruin, you know, all their things. I'll keep them from going to church. Churches are getting in trouble. Churches are still not even reopening, even in the green phase, because they're too big, or because they don't like know how. I don't even know. They're hard restrictions to follow, and like restaurants are just starting to reopen, but we're still at the point where you have to wear a face mask from the point where you walk into the restaurant, they seat you, and then you can take it off. I think it's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. If I was going to get somebody sick with my mask from the walk to the door to my seat, why am I able to sit in my seat with it off? It just doesn't make sense. I know I'm obviously not a doctor, but it just doesn't make a logical sense to me.
Yeah, I know some churches in the area, they have opened, but like the church that I go to, they said it's basically just like a cluster of like 25 people in separate rooms watching a screen with your mask on. Mm-hmm. And that's not really church to me, so
right.
Like
That's
I'm not,
the same thing
yeah.
as watching it at home.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of sad in that regard,
Right.
but
I agree.
those are the regulations.
All right, so we'll move on to our next photo. I don't know who this is.
That's George Stephanopoulos. He was the White House communications director under President Bill Clinton. He's also one of ABC's chief anchors. And actually, in this photograph, George Stephanopoulos, this was actually while he had the coronavirus. I don't believe he has the virus anymore, but during when this photo was taken, he has the coronavirus. He's out and about, which at the time they were saying you need to be quarantined in your basement for like 14 days, like Chris Cuomo, the CNN anchor, supposedly was doing. I don't know if he followed all the rules or not. But George Stephanopoulos in this photograph, he's walking around. He has the coronavirus. His mask is off and he's on the phone, totally disregarding the rules. And it just kind of goes to show that people are saying, you know, do as I say, not as I do, and they're not even following the rules that they're trying to push out there for people to follow.
Exactly. I mean, it's just what we said just now with Tom Wolf. It's the same thing. And I think we see this a ton with celebrities, or, I mean, he's not necessarily like a celebrity, but those like super rich people that have a say, is that they tell people to do things one way and then they turn around and they're not doing it themselves. I mean, like the Kardashians and stuff, and they're all like, oh, we're social distancing now. And then they were getting in trouble for like not socially distancing and like seeing their friends and having parties and stuff, which is stupid. I think is so stupid that like literally because they met with one of their friends, they like people are telling them that they're killing their grandma and stuff. I think it's kind of pointless, but it is what happens over and over again. You do this because this is going to protect you, and we're pushing a narrative that we want to push, and we have the power to do that. And I think that's unfortunate that they have the power to do that, but they only have the power to do that if we continue to give it to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Our next picture is, well, do you want to take this one and tell us what's going on here?
So in the this photograph here, this is just a CNN reporter. I'm not sure what his exact name is, but he was on the beach in one of the states where beaches are allowed to be open in the country, and he was going around telling people, you know, why are you out here? You could be at risk to your family. Why aren't you wearing masks? And then as soon as he goes off camera, he took his mask off and he just starts walking around, and someone took a photograph of it and called him out. And another interesting video, I don't believe it was the same reporter, but it was another person from CNN wearing a mask in an interview, and he told somebody, why aren't you wearing a mask? And then the guy actually said, your cameraman's not even wearing a mask, which I just think's hilarious. The fact that, they're pushing this narrative and their own cameraman wouldn't even try to at least pretend to be like on board with it.
Right. Again, because it's just what you said. It's this narrative that they're pushing. We want you to wear a mask because we want you to think we're in danger. And we want you to think that the government is going to protect you and keep you safe, and that the government is the only one who knows how to control coronavirus, how to keep you and your grandma alive. And I mean, to some extent, I think a lot of people were really going along with this. I think a lot of people, like even some conservatives, definitely a much smaller percentage of them, but I think a lot of people were kind of on board with this. And they're like, yeah, we got to do what we got to do. Because what we saw from the news, I mean, this affected like the whole world, honestly. And we did see China, the hospitals were overrun. And I mean, it was horrible. And in Italy and other places quarantined, it's not like we're the only ones that like fell for this, or I don't think even necessarily fell for it. I think our hospital systems are so much better because we don't have socialized healthcare, because, I think we just didn't end up with the same problems that a lot of other countries have. But I do wonder, what is, for CNN, I mean, what is the purpose? Is it simply let the government be in charge because they know best?
Yeah, I'm not sure. One of the things that I find the most interesting about this is at the beginning, they said, with the stay-at-home orders and stuff, they said it's going to be 15 days, and then they changed it to 30 days, right, just to slow the spread so that the hospitals didn't get overrun. Mm-hmm. That was the whole purpose of everything getting shut down. And then after that, they just kept letting things stay shut down, even though the hospitals weren't overcrowded. I think that if people aren't comfortable going back to work, that's their prerogative, but that I don't think the government should have the right to tell businesses that they don't even have the option to stay open, right, after the hospital, cases went down drastically and there was room for more patients.
Well, I wonder how much too is it less just like this specific narrative we want to push and somewhat more of a distraction from Joe Biden, from the 2020 election. I mean, what really bothered me, and this wasn't even coronavirus, this was from like the protests going on, was last week on Tuesday, it was election day. I mean, in Pennsylvania, at least, we had moved our primary elections, and that was last week, right?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah. We had moved our primary elections, and no one knew it was voting day. And that's what they did was on social media. It was Blackout Tuesday, and everybody had to post a black screen on their Instagram. And I think even like other social media things, they weren't supposed to like really, I don't know. I don't really use a lot of other social media. I don't really use Twitter very much, but I know there was like some other things like that going on elsewhere. And I just think what is, if the purpose is not to distract from things, your timing is really, really good. Yeah. Because people, I mean, again, it's primary elections, and I know people just tend to vote less than those anyway, but it's an election. It's still very important. It still decides who goes to the real election. So I just think that the timing of this stuff is super suspicious. It's not like Throwback Thursday where it's like alliteration and it rhymes. And I mean, so Blackout Tuesday, there's no reason to have it Tuesday. What a coincidence that we have it on election day. And you literally tell everybody, if you post anything on social media that isn't a black screen, you're a racist.
So President Obama was saying that in order to have real change, you need to have both through the election cycle process as well as through peaceful protesting. And I just found it interesting that, like you said, they were pushing this narrative to get people to not realize it was even election day, when that's half the process of, promoting real change in the country. So.
Well, I think that again goes right back to Joe Biden, that it is somewhat of a distraction for sure, going from coronavirus, when people kind of started to get over that and be like, yeah, half my summer's gone. Like, it's summertime. No one even feels that way. No one knows that. Maybe we're kids, so we care more about summer. But things like this, I think people started to get tired of that, and they started to realize it. So I think that the protests, I mean, we won't get into that. We could do a ton on that. But I think the protests, again, are also somewhat of a distraction from what else is going on. This is 2020. All of these things that have happened in 2020, everybody's saying 2020 is such a horrible year. You know why? Because they don't want Donald Trump to stay in office. And again, in 2016, they didn't have a candidate who everybody on the Democratic side could get behind. I think it's the exact same problem. There's so many people that can't get behind Joe Biden. For people that didn't want to vote for Trump for reasons thinking he was not a great guy, I can't imagine a single one of them could think Biden is, based on what we've actually seen proof of.
Yeah, Joe Biden, he's really making Hillary Clinton look like a good candidate. I know she has all these corrupt and criminal issues, but on the other hand, she can complete a sentence and is somewhat articulate.
Right.
And, you know, with Joe Biden, you're literally relying entirely on the vice president and the cabinet to run the country. And that's just kind of a scary place to be in. I think that there's a good chance that if Joe Biden were to actually get elected and win, you know, he's said that he's going to pick a female vice president pick. You know, I really think that there's a chance that the House of Representatives would impeach him for incompetency.
For the people that are so concerned we have to have a female and we're so progressive if we have a woman leading us, I think if the time comes that the best candidate is a woman, I think we can elect her. But it's the same thing with saying we had to have a black president. I don't care what color his skin is. I don't care what gender. I don't care anything about the president except that they're going to do good things for this country that are going to make us as the American people successful and happy and free as we've always been.
Yeah, and I wasn't really a huge fan of President Obama, but I really wasn't that concerned about like the way the country was being run. Like if Joe Biden was in office, it would definitely be like really scary because he can't even complete a sentence.
Yeah.
He can't even complete a sentence.
Right. Well, and Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Chuck Schumer, all of these, and even AOC it's like Trump being in office has brought out the crazy because, you know, these people, except AOC, obviously they've been in office. I did one of this in my episodes too. They've been in office for so long. I don't remember exactly how many years, but like 30, 40, 50 years, some of them. But it's like Trump has brought out the crazy because I agree with you. Under Obama, you know, he did stupid things, he said stupid things, and Obama phone and all this Obamacare and all this stuff. But like, no one was concerned about the future of our country long term. But with Joe Biden and how far left the left has gone, it is a little concerning. Yeah. Well, Collin, thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
If you've enjoyed this episode, you can give me a thumbs up on YouTube, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and you can also check out my Instagram at write.this.way.